The Star Sapphires from the planet Zamaron in Sector 1416 are a lantern corps that was founded by disaffected Owens who now call themselves Zamaronians. On their new planet, they discovered the Star Sapphire and the ability to harness the power of love, one of the more intense pieces of the emotional spectrum. The power of the Star Sapphire chooses an individual, normally a woman, who had fallen deeply in love and had then been scorned, or an individual who has lost their true love to an untimely death. The power of the Star Sapphire gives them the ability to combat the fear and rage accompanied by such a loss or rejection. But make no mistake, despite being guided by love, the members of this Lantern Corps can be fierce and overpowering, none more so than our focus today. Her name, Yrra Cynrill, but you may already know her as Fatality. Before her conversion on Zamaron, Yrra Cynrill was responsible for the murder of at least 100 Green Lanterns. She herself was filled with great rage, which begs the question, did becoming a Star Sapphire absolve her of her past sins? Would she be a better fit for the Red Lantern Corps, or even the Indigo Tribe? Welcome back to the comic verse, everyone. Today we will look back at Fatality's first appearance and her history as we dive back into DC Lantern lore. We will discover who she truly is, why she turned so psychotic, and what led to her conversion into the Star Sapphire Corps. However, to do that, we must first revisit the greatest failure of one of the most celebrated Green Lanterns of all time, John Stewart. For without him, there would be no Fatality. But before we begin, we'd appreciate it if you like and subscribe, comment, and share this video out. It really helps out the channel each and every week. Thank you. In 1988, DC gave us the miniseries Cosmic Odyssey. This 4-part storyline featured most of the key players for Earth's heroes, including Superman, Martian Manhunter, and John Stewart. They were forced to ally themselves with Darkseid because Metron released the anti-life equation Source, an entity bent on destroying and devouring all life. Throughout the narrative, heroes and villains split up to rescue specific planets and star systems. In issue number 3, John Stewart and Martian Manhunter track down a system-devouring device planted in the heart of Xanshi, a peaceful world populated by millions. John Stewart, driven by his ego, believing he could make all the right decisions and all the right moves to disarm, or at least contain the weapon's blast, disregarded all advice and countering opinions, even those of John Jones. Stewart rushed into a hasty solution, one that did not work, and one that had the opposite result he was looking for. His ring was able to protect him when detonation occurred. Martian Manhunter, too, survived. But the planet Xanshi was obliterated, along with every inhabitant. In fact, Stewart's actions set off a device that not only wiped out a planet, it erased an entire system. It was a failure that almost forced John Stewart to end himself out of guilt, were it not for the Martian Manhunter's intervention. Now, while John would live with this guilt for the rest of his life, at times becoming mentally crippling, he could not have foreseen the consequences to come. Those consequences would arrive almost a decade later in Green Lantern Volume 3, issues 82, 83, 84, and 85, when Kyle Rayner had his turn at wielding the Light of Will. Issue 82 is officially Yrra Cynrill's first appearance, as she only appears in shadow, undefined. In the last panel of the book, she is given no name. She approaches Gallius Red, a member of the Dark Stars, and asks if he is who she thinks he is, and if he is a former member of the Green Lantern Corps. Gallius affirms her query, and with that, the shadowy figure takes Gallius' life with one single shot to the chest. Issue 83 begins with an exhausted Kyle Rayner patrolling as his alter ego, Green Lantern. After a particularly messy intervention into an arms deal at the docks, Kyle decides he does not want to go home. Instead, he wants to blow off some steam and live a little. And even though he is dating Donna Troy at this time, he goes solo to a nightclub to dance the night away. For him, it's not exactly cheating. But then, a beautiful woman appears in front of him and demands that he dance. And they do, for the rest of the night, until Kyle has to call it and head home. But our mysterious woman won't have it. She orders him to come with her, door, and as he pulls away, he can see that her face is turned from aggressive passion to hate and determination. The woman reaches for her wrist and unleashes a blinding flash that, when gone, reveals the bombshell beauty in her true form. Lantern green and black, holding a spear-like weapon. As Kyle recoils, she sternly announces that she wants him, that she knows who he is, and then grabs Kyle by the throat, choking the air out of him. But Kyle, not wanting to use his ring and unmask himself in public, tries to control the ring and the protective green light that spits forth. This only makes his female attacker happy. Kyle Rayner is willing to fight. She unleashes a tremendous blast from her staff, launching Kyle out the front doors and onto the street. Onlookers are too busy running for their lives as Kyle uses his ring to construct a shield to protect him from a second blast. It drives him back and into a passing car. Our attacker is confident that no one could have survived. She declares out loud, "So much for the last," but her sentence is cut off as movement is detected in the mangled wreck. Kyle Rayner emerges in full lantern attire. Using his ring, he disarms the woman and demands to know her name and why she is attacking him. This is the first time Kyle can see that she is not from Earth. Her pointed ears, decorated with the symbol of the Green Lantern Corps, her technology far too advanced. But she does answer him as she throws another explosive his way. Her name? Fatality. The reason she is there? Simple. To kill him. The second blast knocks both of them back. Kyle, before getting himself up, asks Fatality if this is because he was a mediocre dancer. Fatality answers back, it's because she is the last of her kind, because of his kind. She preys on all that have ever called themselves Green Lantern, that Kyle won't be the first or the last to die at her hands. But he is the ultimate prize. He is the last to bear the ring. Kyle and Fatality continue to battle throughout the streets, neither getting the upper hand, but Fatality knows Kyle's ring cannot go on forever. It will lose its charge, and she was trained by the warlords of Okara, which means she can battle indefinitely. However, she has made a mistake with this assumption. The old rules don't apply. Kyle's ring does require a battery, but its charge lasts much longer than that of Jordan's or Stewart's ever did. With that revelation, Fatality retreats, vowing to take the only thing Kyle needs, and then to kill him. Kyle, recognizing that Fatality is after any Green Lantern, past or present, lets her go in favor of reaching his old friend before she does. It's nearly 4 a.m. when Kyle enters John Stewart's Midtown office. He is still hard at work. Kyle tells John about Fatality and what she's determined to do. John, the more experienced of the two, immediately realizes Kyle's mistake. If Fatality can track a Green Lantern, then she can probably track their source of power. And now Kyle has left his unguarded. The final panel of issue 83 proves John Stewart correct. Fatality has now confiscated Rayner's only lantern battery, leaving him with precious little time left. Issue 84 picks up with Kyle and John finding Fatality standing on a rooftop overlooking the city. Like a piece of bait, she holds in her hand Kyle's Green Lantern battery. John cannot help Kyle here. He is no longer a Green Lantern, no longer has the gift of Oa's powers. But for Kyle, that does not matter. If Fatality is who she says she is, then she must be confronted. Kyle tries to surprise her from behind with a giant construct meant to flatten her to the concrete. But Fatality is too quick and evades the strike, falling from the rooftop in the process. Kyle flies after her, and just as he reaches Fatality, she swings his own battery into his jaw before landing on her feet. She tells Kyle that the difference this time is that when they first fought, she was using delaying tactics. Now, she is strictly on offense. The two trade energy blasts, and Fatality appears to be getting the better of GL, even forcing him onto the train tracks, where he narrowly avoids being run over. Fatality has fought dozens of Green Lanterns. She knows how they think, how they react, their fight patterns. Kyle is no different. With a shot of energy from her wrist, Fatality traps Kyle Rayner against a steel beam. He is now helpless as she scrapes the blade of her staff along his jawline. For Kyle, before he dies, he just wants to know why. And Fatality, being a warrior in spirit, understands that if this is his last request, so be it. She will tell him. Besides, what's the harm? Fatality tells Kyle that she is from the planet Xanshi, a planet that once had its own Green Lantern, one who was slain but never replaced. Her world was home to many races. It was paradise, ruled by her own family for centuries. Since she was the eldest child, her father sent her off-world to be educated, the first of her people ever to do so. She was sent to the warlords of Okara to be schooled in combat and honor, and she discovered that she had a talent for warfare. Then, one day, Xanshi simply exploded in an instant. Everything she had known ceased to be. Against the wishes of her teachers, she left Okara to find out what happened. She needed an answer, and she learned that it was the arrogance of a Green Lantern that doomed her planet, although she never learned their name. But it doesn't really matter. In Fatality's mind, they are all guilty. Guilty of hubris, of believing in their own self-perpetual myth of being a savior. All of the Green Lanterns need to pay for their crime. So she devoted herself to becoming an invincible warrior, an instrument of vengeance. Yrra Cynrill of Xanshi died, and born was Fatality, a master of weapons and war, and then a pure hunter, a hunter of Green Lanterns. Even Kyle could not fathom the amount of Green Lanterns she stalked and slaughtered. Her only goal? To erase the Green Lantern Corps from existence, just as they had Xanshi. And now, even though the Corps has been destroyed by one of their own, it will never be over for her until all of the Green Lanterns, past and present, are dead. And as Fatality finishes telling her tale, explaining her motivations, she does the unexpected. She leans in and kisses Kyle Rayner, declaring him tasty, before telling him goodbye, last of the Green Lanterns. As she raises her staff to strike the killing blow, a voice bellows out from behind her, commanding her to stop. It is John Stewart. Fatality asks him, what's he gonna do about it? John tells her that he will take her on with her bare hands if necessary. Just then, John's hands begin to glow green. He is shocked and puzzled by what is happening. Then, as if on instinct, he blasts Fatality with two powerful beams of green light, hurling her backwards and into the air. How John did this? Well, that is a tale for another video. First things first, Kyle checks on what he thinks is now a dead Fatality, but she is very much alive, and as he gets too close, she stabs him in the shoulder, grabs the power battery, and takes off, leaving Kyle and John to recover. After John bandages Kyle's wounds to prevent him from bleeding to death, they continue their pursuit of Fatality, heading in the general direction of her escape. As they approach an abandoned warehouse, a loud rumble begins to shake the ground, and then the warehouse begins to fall apart as Fatality's ship launches and breaks through the building structure. Kyle, against John's concerns, follows Fatality into space. Not exactly a wise move for Kyle, because after all, his ring will soon be depleted, and he will not have any protection against the vacuum of the universe. And as Kyle reaches Fatality, he is too late. Her ship creates a wormhole and enters. Kyle follows, unbeknownst to where he is going. And as Kyle exits the wormhole, he is met with cannon fire. He returns in kind with constructs of warplanes and his own spacecraft. He manages to get a direct hit on Fatality's engines, forcing the craft into an uncontrolled descent onto a barren and wasteland of a planet. Unfortunately for Kyle, as Fatality's ship falls, she is able to land her own direct hit, forcing him to crash land. Both ships hit so hard, they burrow into the ground and into the planet's extensive cave system. When Kyle comes to, he uses what's left of his ring energy to see in the dark and move through the sludge and grime of the cave. He is looking for Fatality, and more importantly, his power battery. But he is not alone. A creature, an inhabitant of the planet, is stalking him with tentacles and teeth from beneath the mud. One of the creature's tentacles attempt to ensnare Rayner, but he has enough left in his ring to fight it off. However, that is all he has left, and his green ring fizzles and expires. This is when the creature strikes again. This time, the creature wraps Kyle up like a python, strangling and pulling its prey under the mud. Issue number 85 picks up here, with Kyle struggling against this alien beast which is trying to devour him. The massive creature sits atop a pile of bones, relics from previous meals, as it pulls a battered Kyle Rayner towards its massive teeth. Kyle, without his ring, desperately searches for anything to help him as he is dragged closer and closer to death. His only option? The bones. Heavy, solid, sharpened on the ends. He reaches out, grabs the closest two, and as the creature opens wide, Kyle turns and begins to furiously stab at the monster's eyes. The beast begins to shriek and then drops its prey before retreating back into its home. Kyle then walks for what seems like forever, searching for any sign of his enemy. Eventually, he finds Fatality's ship, lying in wreck and still smoking. He enters, cautiously holding a large bone like a sword. Once inside, he sees for himself the depth of Fatality's psychotic nature. Dozens and dozens of trophies taken from the lanterns she has murdered over the years. Even their remains are displayed. Kyle tries to recharge his own ring with the defunct and confiscated power batteries of fallen lanterns, but it does not work. Those batteries have been dead for far too long. He decides to look for Fatality in the command module. The systems look like they're all working when he enters, but no Fatality. Only a splatter of purple blood on the floor, accompanied by a purple stain on the pilot's chair. Kyle continues his search. He exits the ship and wonders where she could have gone off to. He gets his answer. She was on top of the ship all along, recovering from her wounds and waiting for the right time to pounce. Fatality comes down on Kyle with a brutal stomp to his face, and only the bone Kyle wields prevents Fatality from driving a knife into his head. The two trade blow after blow, cutting each other open, each getting weaker and weaker by the moment as blood escapes their bodies. But neither gives up. This is survival now. Hand-to-hand combat, a duel to the death. But Fatality still has a few tricks, including a leftover grenade which he tosses at Rayner. The explosion sends him over the edge of an abyss. He is just barely able to hang on, and as he pulls himself up, Fatality kicks him in the ear, but he takes it, fights through the pain, and uses his bone club to trip Fatality and toss her onto her back. He rushes her, looking for a killing strike, but she is able to move and take the blow to her shoulder. Again, Kyle's able to knock her off her feet, but this time, instead of attacking, he tries to reason with her. He tells her this has got to stop. Neither of them will make it out alive if this continues. Murdering him won't fix anything, but Fatality is single-minded. Every lantern must die. She is able to get one last blast of energy from her boot to shatter Kyle's weapon. Then she draws a gun, points it at Kyle, forcing him to raise his hands in the air. Kyle wonders why not just shoot him. The answer? Fatality wants him to suffer, just as her people suffered, and kicks him once more in the face. Kyle falls back, exhausted, defeated. As Fatality raises her weapon to end the fight, Kyle explains to her that the destruction of Xanshi was a mistake. Why can't she accept that? Xanshi exploded because a Green Lantern thought nothing could overcome the power of his ring. Arrogance? Yes, but that lantern feels her same grief every day of his life, and he was just 5 feet away from her. He saved him, John Stewart of Earth. He's not a monster, he's just a man who lives with the burden of failure, and if he could change what happened, he would, but he can't, and neither can she, no matter how many she has killed. For Fatality, Kyle's words do not reach her. And now that she has the name, John Stewart won't have to live with his grief much longer. She will kill him. After she's feasted on Kyle, of course. These words horrify Kyle. Fatality explains to him that he should be honored. The most noble of warriors ritually devour only the most worthy opponents. That's right, Fatality intends to eat Kyle Rayner. Fatality then reaches down and reveals Kyle's battery hidden in the sludge. She figures he'd want to see it one last time before she beats him to death with it. Then fate steps in. Kyle gets another chance. The beast he battled earlier emerges from the mud and grabs Fatality along with Kyle, lifting them high into the air. It too was looking for a meal. Now, their only hope is for Fatality to give the battery back to Kyle so he can charge his ring. But again, Fatality would rather trade her life to see another lantern die, and she tosses the power battery back into the mud. Now, Kyle feels nothing but pure desperation. Straining, he reaches over to Fatality and is able to remove one of her daggers and begins swiping and slashing as furiously as he can, cutting into the monster's tentacles. Miraculously, it works, and Kyle drops to the ground, picks up Fatality's fallen gun, and attempts to save her. Even after all she has done, he won't allow her to die this way. But as Kyle turns, the creature retreats back into the ground, Fatality still in its clutches, and he realizes there's nothing he can do. In an instant, she is gone. Only one piece of her remains, a cybernetic arm ripped from her right shoulder. Kyle, alive but feeling nothing but defeat, retrieves his power battery and returns home to John, his foe seemingly lost forever. But that would not be the end of Fatality. She would return in Green Lantern Volume 3 issues number 131 and 132, this time wielding a yellow Quardian ring, a ring given to her by a mysterious benefactor. The reason why she was given this ring? All a ploy to get it to Nero, another true psychotic villain. The plan? Have Fatality fight Kyle Rayner with the power of fear, and after her defeat, the ring would be lost and seek out the greatest instiller of fear in that city. Of course, that would be Nero. And this odd plan does work. And unfortunately for Fatality, the separation of the ring from her hand causes a massive explosion, taking her left arm. And although DNA replication can build her a new arm, her blood is royal blood, too tainted with inbreeding to work, leaving Fatality with 2 cybernetic arms. That would also not be the last of Fatality's tour with the Sinestro Corps. She is not seen or mentioned in the storyline of the Sinestro Corps Wars. It is explained in Green Lantern Corps Volume 2, Issue 30, that she was a member, and that after her defeat, she was taken by the Zamoronians. They selected her for conversion and placed her in a Star Sapphire crystal chamber, held in stasis while the emotional power of love took hold. Finally, in the prelude to Blackest Night, in Green Lantern Volume 4, Issues 36, 38, 40, 41, and 42, she would emerge a key player in the upcoming crisis, appearing for the first time as a Star Sapphire, visiting John Stewart amongst the ruins of her homeworld. As John works through his continued grief over his failure, she gives him permission to forgive himself. She kisses John Stewart, declares her love for him, even saves him from Agent Orange. And finally, the two witness the necrotic rebirth of Xanshi as Black Lantern rings rain down on the remnants of Fatality's homeworld, creating an entire planet of Black Lanterns as the Blackest Night storyline truly begins. And there you have it, the origin story and history of Yrra Cynrill, now known as Fatality. What do you think? Did the Star Sapphires make a mistake? Would she be better off in the Red Lantern Corps with all of her rage? Or the Indigo Tribe, a tribe of former murderers and psychotics themselves, now rehabilitated? And do you think she should ever truly be trusted or forgiven for her previous acts? Let me know in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed that look back at pop culture and comic book history. I thank you for watching. If you want more pop culture fun, click on the thumbnail at the end of the video for our look back at the most dangerous woman in Gotham City, Poison Ivy. You'll be glad you did. Until next time, remember I'm still your reluctant gringo from somewhere south of the border. Salut and a huevo.